For years, the truth stayed hidden, the victims forgotten, the cases left cold, until science revealed what time could not. This is decades in the dark, where cold cases are brought back to light. They boarded the ship like any other family vacation, a chance to get away, to relax, to spend time together surrounded by ocean views, music, restaurants, and the illusion of safety that comes with being on a luxury cruise. Thousands of people were on board. Crew members everywhere, security cameras, locked corridors, a floating city where people assume nothing truly terrible can happen. But behind one cabin door, something did. Christy Manzanares was 39 years old. She was a wife, a mother of 3 daughters, and someone people described as warm, kind, and deeply devoted to her family. Friends said she was the kind of person who made people feel safe, steady, loving, the center of her home. In July of 2017, Christy, her husband Kenneth, their 3 daughters, and members of Christy's family boarded the Emerald Princess, a Princess Cruises ship sailing through Alaska's Inside Passage. It was supposed to be a family vacation, one of those trips filled with glacier views, family dinners, and memories that would last forever. Instead, it became something no one on that ship would ever forget. By the night of July 25th, the cruise had reached the waters near Juneau, Alaska. It was late in the evening when the family gathered for dinner. At first, it looked like any other cruise dinner. Food, drinks, conversation. But Kenneth had been drinking heavily, and according to federal court documents, his behavior began to change. Witnesses said he became aggressive and inappropriate. At one point, he was forcibly kissing Christy against her wishes in front of family members. It was enough that one of Christy's brothers confronted him. An argument followed. Tension rose quickly. Rather than let the scene continue in public, Christy and Kenneth left dinner and returned to their cabin, Cabin D726, a stateroom on Deck 9 near the back of the ship. Their daughters went with them. Inside that small cabin, the argument continued. This wasn't just about dinner. This was bigger. According to Kenneth's own statement to investigators, Christy told him she was done. Done with the behavior. Done with the trip. Done with him. She told him she wanted a divorce, and she made something else clear. She wanted him off the ship. She kept saying, "I'm done. We need to figure out a way to get you off the boat in Juneau. I knew you'd find a way to ruin this trip." Those were Kenneth's own words when he later described the moment. At some point, as the conversation escalated, Kenneth told their daughters to leave the cabin. The girls walked into their grandparents' adjoining room next door. But they could still hear everything. They listened as their parents continued arguing through the wall. Then they heard a loud noise, and Christy screaming. The girls ran to the connecting door between the cabins and tried to get inside. They couldn't. Then came one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire case. Their youngest daughter, Kaya, shouted, "Dad, stop! I can hear you!" From inside the cabin, Kenneth responded, "Don't come in here, I mean it." Those words would stay with that family forever. Passengers in nearby cabins also began hearing the screaming. Not loud laughter, not drunken vacation noise. Screaming. Panicked, violent, desperate. The kind of sound that makes people stop what they're doing. The kind that makes people open their cabin doors. Passengers stepped into the hallway, confused, trying to understand what they were hearing. And what they saw next would stay with them forever. A man stood outside one of the cabins. His hands were covered in blood. Witnesses later said he looked strangely calm. And then he said something no one could forget. "My wife won't stop laughing at me." It was a sentence that made no sense then, and still doesn't fully make sense now. Inside that cabin, Christy Manzanares had been brutally beaten. She suffered devastating blunt force injuries to her head. Reports later revealed she had been attacked so violently that family members said she was left unrecognizable. The room showed signs of a violent struggle. Blood on the walls, blood on the bed, blood on the floor, furniture disturbed, chaos inside what had been, only hours earlier, a vacation cabin. Crew members rushed in. Ship security responded quickly. Unlike a crime on land, there was nowhere to run. A cruise ship is one of the most controlled environments possible. Cameras, keycard access, narrow hallways, limited exits. Kenneth was detained almost immediately. Christie did not survive. At first, people struggled to understand how something like this could happen in such a public place. Thousands of passengers were on board, families, children, honeymooners, retirees. And yet, behind one cabin door, a murder had taken place. Federal investigators became involved because crimes committed on cruise ships in these waters often fall under federal jurisdiction. The FBI and federal prosecutors began piecing together what had happened. The evidence painted a picture that many domestic violence cases do: control, humiliation, escalation, and the moment someone decides they are leaving. One of the strongest theories was that Christie's decision to end the marriage triggered the violence. She had publicly challenged him at dinner. Her brother had stepped in. She told him she wanted a divorce, and she planned to send him home alone once the ship reached Juneau. Then there was his statement. "My wife won't stop laughing at me." Some investigators believed it reflected humiliation, not necessarily literal laughter, but the feeling that he had been embarrassed, rejected, and exposed. Whether it was jealousy, control, alcohol, rage, or something deeper, the final result was the same. Christie was dead. Kenneth was arrested and charged. The case should have gone to trial. That's usually where families get answers. Testimony. Evidence presented in order. Witnesses forced to speak publicly. But instead, Kenneth later accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in 2020. In 2021, he was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for what prosecutors described as an unrelenting beating. There would be punishment, but still no full trial. No complete public account of those final moments. And then, just over a month after sentencing, Kenneth was found unresponsive in his prison cell at Lemon Creek Correctional Center in Juneau, Alaska. Correctional officers attempted life-saving measures. EMS responded, but he was pronounced dead. Authorities said foul play was not suspected. His death was not related to COVID. The official cause was not publicly emphasized, but the result was the same. Whatever final explanation Kenneth may have carried with him, died there. No more testimony, no more answers, only fragments. Witnesses who heard screams, passengers who saw blood, 2 daughters who heard their mother's final moments, and a family left trying to understand how a vacation became a nightmare. Some people see this case as tragically simple, domestic violence escalating to its final and most brutal end. Others point to his strange hallway statement and wonder if there was some kind of psychological break happening in those final minutes. There were even whispers online about cruise ship secrecy, about how quickly terrible things can disappear once a ship reaches port. But the truth here may be the most terrifying one of all. That nothing mysterious had to happen. No stranger, no hidden killer, just a husband, a closed door, and the moment someone decided they were finally leaving. What makes this case so unsettling isn't just the violence, it's the setting. A cruise ship is supposed to feel safe. You unpack your bags, you walk the deck, you eat dinner under string lights and ocean wind, you trust the walls around you. But safety is often an illusion, because sometimes danger doesn't come from strangers in dark alleys. Sometimes it sleeps in the bed beside you. Sometimes it boards the ship with you. Officially, the case is closed. Kenneth Manzanares was identified as Christie's killer. There are no outstanding suspects. No mystery in the legal sense. But emotionally, the case never really closes. Because the biggest question remains, what happened in those final minutes inside that cabin? What was said? What pushed that moment past the point of no return? And could anyone have stopped it? Somewhere between dinner that night and the screaming in that hallway, a family's entire future disappeared. And no courtroom ever got the chance to fully explain why. So the question is, what really happened inside that cabin that night? This is Decades in the Dark, where science brings the past to light. Subscribe for more stories where justice never expires.